I decided to stop posting. Not to slow down, just to stop. It wasn't burnout, it wasn't overwhelm. By every external measure, it was working. And that's exactly why I stopped. Because something underneath all of that growth was quietly going wrong. And I could not hear what it was over the noise of my own consistency. And somewhere inside of all of that support and all of that consistency, I started to feel like I was losing a sense of who I actually was. The content was mine, the ideas are mine, but it had stopped feeling like me. And she said, "Your own content is boring," and she was right, I could feel it. So the month off was never really just a holiday from posting. It was a realignment. It was me getting quiet enough to work out not just what I want to create, but who I want to be when I create it. Welcome to Rich and Regulated, where women learn to build wealth in alignment and flow. I'm Jessica Soul. For over a decade, I've helped women create the lives of their dreams, and here I'll share how I build wealth, fast-track results, and reveal money truths that will blow your mind. Ready to become rich and regulated? Let's get wealthy. The day after my wealth summit, I was sitting at Hellenica, this beautiful restaurant inside the Khalil Hotel in Brisbane, and somewhere between courses, sitting there in the biggest afterglow of one of the biggest events of my career, I made a decision that would have horrified every social media strategist on the internet. I decided to stop posting. Not to slow down, just to stop. I was leaving for Bali in a few days, and I had decided that the content machine was not coming with me. A few little pieces here and there in the stories, but the machine itself, the posting schedule, the reels, the carousels, the constant feeding of the algorithm, I switched the whole thing off. And I want to talk about why, because the why is probably not what you think. It wasn't burnout, it wasn't overwhelm, and my following has grown by 12,000 people in the last 6 months or so. My engagement was rising, my income was rising, everything was. By every external measure, it was working. And that's exactly why I stopped. Because something underneath all of that growth was quietly going wrong. And I could not hear what it was over the noise of my own consistency. And here's the thing about building a content operation. I have an agency that helps me with my posting because of the podcast. I have people supporting me. I have systems. And somewhere inside of all of that support and all of that consistency, I started to feel like I was losing a sense of who I actually was. The content was mine, the ideas are mine, but it had stopped feeling like me. It was professional, it was consistent, it was fine. And fine was the problem because I'm a creative at heart. And this is something a lot of you would not know about me. So let's take you back for a minute. From 17 to about 25 years old, I was a fashion photographer. That was my entire world. And I want you to understand what that actually meant because it shaped everything about how I see. You know, photography taught me that an image is never just an image. Light means something, composition means something, the angle of a woman's chin, the space you leave around her, the moment you choose to press the shutter versus the moment you let pass. All of it is a decision, and every decision either serves the story or it betrays it. I spent years of my life learning that craft, learning that beauty is not an accident, that the images that stop you, the ones that stay in your body for years, they are built with intention by someone who cared about every single element inside the frame. And one day when this chapter of my life allows it, I want to become a painter. And that's the truth. There is a creative force inside of me that has been sitting patiently in the corner while I build this business. And it's watching me produce content that was strategic and solid, but also completely safe. Watching the woman who used to obsess over light and story churn out content that any competent marketer could have made. And so in that restaurant, the day after the summit, that creative part of me finally spoke up loudly enough for me to hear. And she said, "Your own content is boring." And she was right. I could feel it. I would look at my own posts and I felt nothing half the time. And if I feel nothing making it, what exactly is the woman scrolling past it supposed to feel? And so I went quiet, and the silence taught me more in that month than the noise has taught me in a year. So I want to walk you through what I found, because I think every woman who's building a personal brand, every woman creating anything online, and honestly, every woman holding a phone needs to hear this. The first thing I noticed was on the consumption side. When I stopped posting, I also stopped consuming. I stopped watching other people's content almost entirely. And every day I would open Instagram, and whatever came up in front of me, I would just assess it honestly. Is this adding anything to my life? And I hate to say it, but almost every single time, the answer was no. So I unfollowed day by day, person by person, a quiet little cull every morning of everything that was taking up space in my mind without earning a space. Because here is what I saw once I stepped outside of the machine and looked back in at it. Everything's the same. Everything's safe. Everything's about a hook, a cute little walk to camera, read the caption. Everything is, here's 5 tips that will surprisingly make you rich. Everything's a motivational quote in a nice font. It is quiet, it is subpar, it is endless. And I do not say that to be mean or cruel. I say it because I genuinely believe most creators don't even realize what they're doing. Everyone is just repeating what they see, and the algorithm rewards a format. Everyone copies the format, and the entire platform slowly becomes an echo of an echo of an echo. And there was one moment that really crystallized this for me. Someone I know from my old gym, beautiful woman. She's got about 300,000 followers. She posted her morning out at an organic market. And I watched the reel, and I genuinely thought, look, in 2019, this would have been charming. This was the golden era of sharing your little life. But guys, it's not 2019 anymore. And I found myself asking the question that I think we should all be asking about the content that we are consuming and everything we're creating. If it's not adding value, if it's not emoting something, if it's not touching someone's heart, what is it actually for? And look, I want to be fair here. I love that woman with that kind of following, and she's obviously captivating an audience, genuinely. But I also found myself wondering how much of that reach that she had was built in 2020, when the algorithm was just handing out followers like confetti, and whether that content would build anything at all if she started doing that from scratch today. Because it is so much harder to grow on Instagram right now. The game has changed, and a lot of what we are all copying is strategy from a game that no longer exists. But here is where this conversation gets bigger than just content strategy. Because the more I sat outside of the machine, the more clearly I could see what the machine is actually doing to us. Not to the creators, to the humans. We have an epidemic on our hands, and our children are addicted to their phones, like genuinely, clinically, neurologically addicted. Dopamine hits engineered by some of the smartest people on this planet, delivered in 15-second intervals to developing brains. And we all know it. Every parent knows it. We talk about it at dinner parties with this resigned little laugh, like, oh, the kids and their screens, as if it's just like commenting on the weather, as if it's not the defining developmental crisis of a generation. And here's the part that made me genuinely uncomfortable sitting with it in Bali. The adults are just as hooked. The women going viral right now, so much of that content is a dopamine hit of bullshit. It's engineered the same way kids' content is engineered. Fast, loud, hollow, and then it's gone. A hit of stimulation with nothing underneath it. And we consume it for hours a day. And then we wonder why we feel scattered and anxious and vaguely dissatisfied with our lives that are actually objectively good lives. And I'm a content creator, which means I have to be honest about my place in that system. Every piece of content I make is either contributing to the noise or cutting through it. It's either another empty hit in someone's feed, or it's something that actually feeds her. And there is no neutral point in that. And when I looked at safe, fine, consistent content that I'd been producing, I had to ask myself, which one was it? And the answer wasn't comfortable. That is what I mean when I say my content was boring me. It was not failing by the metrics, it was failing by the standard I actually hold, which is the standard of that 17-year-old photographer who believed an image should stop your heart or not exist at all. And the second thing the silence showed me was actually harder to look at because it was about me. I have thousands of people watching my stories every single day. Beautiful people, I can see them there watching every single day consistently. And most of them never come in. They never comment, never message, never convert that watching into connection. And I'm going to be honest with you about how that feels, because nobody with a platform ever says this part out aloud. It hurts my soul a little bit. And I'm sitting with that in Bali without the distraction of the next post. I had to ask myself some really uncomfortable questions. Is it my ego that's hurt? Maybe, partly. I'm a human. But underneath the ego, there was something more useful. The question of why. Why do people watch and not connect? My content is good. I know it's good. I've watched people with millions of followers produce work at the same caliber or below. So where's the gap? And here is what I landed on. I think people see the confidence and miss the human. I think the perception of me as a woman who is so certain, so sorted, so on top of it, that she does not need any cheerleaders. She does not need the comment. She does not need anything. And I think that perception exists because of what I have chosen to show you, which means it's mine to fix. Because here is what nobody sees. This entire year, everything I've built, I have built with a newborn on my hip. I have recorded face-to-camera videos on my balcony while my baby is sleeping in the next room, working in the tiny windows he naps. I've been up before dawn, slapping on fake tan, dropping my baby at mum and dad's on the Gold Coast at 7 a.m, racing to get hair and makeup done for podcast recordings. The summit, the programs, the podcast, the growth, all of it carried alongside the most demanding season of motherhood. Nobody sees that woman. And that's actually not the audience's failure. That's mine. I have not articulated her. I have shown the output and hidden what I've actually been carrying. And you cannot feel connected to someone's output. You can only feel connected to their humanity. So the month off was never really just a holiday from posting. It was a realignment. It was me getting quiet enough to work out not just what I want to create, but who I want to be when I create it. And I want to share where I've landed because I think this is useful for anyone creating anything right now. I asked myself one simple question. What do I actually love to consume? Not what performs, not what the gurus say to make. What stops my scroll and stays with me for days? The answer was immediate. Things with heart, things with depth, things with nuance, things that are almost poetic. Content where I can hear the woman, actually hear her, not a performance of her. Work that drives me to be better and leaves me feeling seen rather than sold to. Not another motivational quote, not another, here's my top 5 ways to get rich, not another cute hook. Something raw, something long form, something controversial or deeply human. But, and this distinction matters enormously to me, human doesn't mean sloppy. I'm a content creator. I was a photographer. I have standards and an eye and a craft that took years to build. So the direction I am moving in is human but refined, real but beautiful, depth delivered with intention. Because I think that combination, genuine heart married to genuine craft, is the rarest thing on the internet right now. Everyone has one or the other. The polished people have no heart and the heartfelt people have no polish. Almost nobody has both, and that is the gap I intend to live in. And my husband, bless him, he barely watches anything I do online, but he's so intuitive about how I communicate. And some of the best ideas for what comes next came out of quiet conversations with him on this trip, which is its own lesson, honestly. The clarity did not come from a strategy call or a content audit or another course. It came from silence, from distance, from a person who knows the real me reflecting her back to herself. And I will tell you the funniest part of this whole experiment. In a month of posting nothing, I've still grown by around 400 followers. Sit with that for a second. The machine says post every day or die. Consistency is king. Feed the algorithm or be forgotten. I fed it absolutely nothing for a month. And I grew anyway, which tells you something the strategist will never admit. The audience is not necessarily going anywhere. What you have built does not evaporate the moment you stop performing for it. That scarcity is manufactured and urgency is manufactured. The whole breathless pace of it is manufactured. You're allowed to stop. You're allowed to think. You're allowed to disappear for a month and come back with something better than what the hamster wheel was ever going to produce. If you're a creator and your own content is boring you, hear this. That is not a work ethic problem. That is not a consistency problem. That is a signal, and it is one of the most important signals you will ever receive. So do not push through it. Stop and listen. The answer is not more output. The answer is more truth. And if you are not a creator, if you're purely on the consumption side of this, you are not off the hook either, my love. Start being ruthless about what you let into your mind. Unfollow generously, daily if you need to. Your feed is your mental diet, and most of what is being served to you is beige slop, engineered to keep you scrolling, not to make you better. Keep only what has heart. Keep only what makes you feel seen or makes you want to rise. You will be genuinely stunned by how different you feel in 2 weeks. And this is the kind of conversation that we have inside of Sovereign Wealth for Women, my free community, all the time. And you might think, what does content have to do with wealth? Everything. I can tell you, the woman who cannot show up honestly online is almost always the same woman who cannot ask for the sale, who cannot raise her prices, who cannot hold being seen in her power, because visibility and wealth are the same muscle. And so if this episode found you somewhere real, come in and join us. It costs nothing to be a part of the community, and the women in there are having the conversations nobody else is having. The link is in the show notes. I went quiet for a month, and here's the truth of what I found in the silence. I found the photographer again, the 17-year-old with the camera who believed that what you put into the world should be beautiful and true or not exist at all. And she's been here the whole time, patiently waiting underneath the strategy and the consistency and the machine. And she is what's coming back next. So if you have been feeling that same quiet pull, the sense that the way you've been doing things is not the way you are meant to keep doing it, then trust that. Take the pause. Find your version of silence, whatever that is, and whatever's real in you is on the other side of it, and it is worth more than any machine will ever give you.